Nicholas Juarez, and I'm a rising junior at the University of Oklahoma, studying Native American Studies and social work with concentrations in critical indigenous theory, indigenous philosophy, and psychoanalytic theory. I want to thank Dr. Maria Montoya and my entire cohort, as well as the entire LEMI program, really, for helping me with this project. Their advice, support, and late-night conversations provided an invaluable contribution to this work, without which it would not have been complete. I also want to pay homage to the Post-Patuck people who were killed and displaced so that NYU could be built and so my research can be conducted. And I also want to pay homage to the Mohegan people who were killed and displaced in Hartford, Connecticut, so that this conference could take place. I hope that their spirits find peace and that their descendants may be able to avenge and honor their lives for the Great Spirit once again. Okay, so today I want to focus on how Native American ontology filters sexual violence and how that ontology manifests when that violence is committed against Native American women. I contend that one place this ontological categorization of the Native, or the structure or kind of the grammar of their suffering, breaks in or reveals itself is in pornographic films. Thinking with Afro-pessimist scholars Tiffany King and Frank Wilderson, as well as indigenous scholars Jody Bird and Billy Ray Belcourt, I claim that when the position of the Native ought to be understood as a position first and an experience second. Or more precisely, that the position of the Native is one which intimately shapes the condition of possibility for what gender can be, and so, as such, even if identities or experiences would seem to contradict the position at the micro-political level, they do not discount the ontological trajectory of violence which governs the life of Native people. Claims of essentialism are misleading here because they claim not, on one hand, that every Native woman will experience the same thing, but rather that there is essential lack of capacity in Native women's ability to assert themselves as subjects undeserving of sexual violence within civil society. In discussing such a paradigm, people will often posit questions of agency. These questions ultimately depend on a particular understanding or framing of agency. So following Black feminist scholar Maria de Guadalupe Davidson's work, I will define agency as being composed as three characteristics. First, the ability to choose. Second, rationality. And third, having one's agency recognized. While these are complex subjects in and of themselves, let me briefly give an explanation of each. The ability to choose means that as an agentic subject is able to make a choice that is not coerced. Rationality, rather than in accordance to a Cartesian formulation, which is indebted to deep settler colonial metaphysics, is understood as the ability to take the best course of action given the available resources and knowledge to accomplish one's decided goals. For example, if one wanted to make millions of dollars, one would not rationally be a humanities scholar. As for recognition, and this is the hardest point, but if it plays into the understanding that subjectivity and agency are ultimately communal efforts. If the society writ large does not recognize you as an agentic subject, then you are not afforded the status of agency within a larger community, since you cannot be afforded the kind of recognition which allows your agency to become coherent to the broader world. Both these frameworks for structuralism and agency undergird my presentation today. For this presentation in particular, I'm going to focus on Jack Runney's 1988 film, Saddle Tramp, starring Cherokee actress Hypatia Lee. Through this presentation, I hope to reveal the way that settlerism has merged and shaped Native women's relationship to sexual violence, sexual agency, and cultural capital. Saddle Tramp reveals the violence of settler desire and how these erotic visions come to shape Native ontology. The film thus reveals how settlerism is necessarily an erotic project, which overdetermines from the outside the realm of possibility. First, however, I want to provide a brief synopsis of the film. The beginning of the film gives the viewer a narrative introduction where the viewer is introduced to Hypatia Lee, who ends up working in a brothel for a white woman named Miss Lily. Lee eventually robs her and runs away with a robber named Clay, who decides that will keep selling her and prostituting her at cattle auctions. In the midst of doing this, Miss Lily calls upon the deputy and the sheriff of the town to catch them. Ultimately, however, they fail, and Clay and Lee continue to prostitute Lee. The film ends with Clay and Lee in a final scene discussing meeting up back in Arizona where they will prostitute Lee to get enough money to buy a ranch. The viewer is told in the last few minutes that eventually the two end up marrying and having a child. So, what can this film tell us? Well, immediately as the film begins, Lee's body becomes deployed as a site of transit for the film's narrative. The narration at the beginning uses Lee's own voice to inform us that these events and chooses specific words to temporally and culturally racialize Lee's body as Native. The film supposedly takes place, quote, many, many moons ago, and Lee misses apparently, quote, hunting wild magical herbs. Not only this, but the genocidal violence of the Trail of Tears, as well as her subsequent enslavement, marks her body immediately as not only without agency, but structured by violence. The narrative could not have happened without her being positioned as not only an object of genocide, but also imminently able to be slaved, a fact the viewer knows since she has committed no apparent crime outside of her being native. However, even though Lee is certainly the field upon which the narrative takes place, she is not the actor or agent within the film. In the beginning, the viewer is told that, quote, a lone stranger, who turns out to be Clay, rode into town. Things were never quite the same after that. As a matter of fact, things were never quite the same in the West after that. Lee's flesh and the violences which structure her are not what changes history. In fact, they are the prerequisites for history to occur, because it will be the white masculine cowboy who acts. However, Lee's position does not just grant agency to the white masculine body for coherency, not to mention money and erotic pleasure, but the white feminine body as well. It is in fact first Miss Lily who owns Lee at the beginning of the film, and the first person the viewer sees who will buy her body will be a white woman. That is in fact the main difference between Lee's body and the white feminine body throughout. While consent is often presumed in pornography, the woman will never say no. One can imagine throughout the film that the white women of the film could say no as business owners, as people who buy other people for sex. Lee, on the other hand, as a native woman who is slaved on the Trail of Tears and who is bought and sold, could not say no if she wanted to. Even in the one scene where Lee shoots Clay, he simply falls down and then immediately stands up again as if unharmed, suggesting that her attempt to deploy violence is merely farcical within the film. In fact, even though supposedly Lee is earning half of the money, the viewer is never given a moment where this actually matters. She apparently lives with Clay, who buys her clothes, decides when and where she will be sold, and who she will be auctioned to. He is even marked in the film as, quote, America's first pimp. Strange, however, is that even if one assumes that Lee has the ability to choose, she is not certainly rational within the film. She assists Clay with the robbery without knowing him, and her larger grievance for the film is that she is not sold for more money, rather than desiring to be free, to rejoin her people, or to take revenge on the people who have enslaved her. Clay certainly doesn't respect her either. He refers to her multiple times as a squaw, a slur against native women, and even threatens her with being shot early on. Lee is written as a sacrificial character, who can be used by the settler characters of the film, men and women, for erotic and financial benefit. The unconditional and illogical support is rooted historically in film within a trope which characterizes native women as yearning for a white hero or Western civilization, and reifies the strange expectation that within settler civil society, that the native woman exists solely to help the settler. Not only this, but later in the film she goes on to marry the man who owns her and has his child. Those Lee's role as an erotic object tells us much more throughout the film. When first discussing her, Clay remarks that she has dark, mysterious looks, signifying her as an other quality, the unknown feminine and racial other. In fact, Clay remarks that it is, quote, every man's fantasy to screw a wild Indian squaw. He later remarks at the auction that, quote, the wild Indian squaw has driven many a white man mad with lust, and that, quote, thousands are sworn to do anything they can to get a little piece of Indian pussy. In fact, I understand that it brings true meaning to the term wild, wild west. Here the viewer sees that Clay universalizes not only the fantasy of sexual conquest of native women, but he suggests that there is some ontological lasciviousness which drives white men, quote, mad with lust. Though in connecting the partial object of Lee's, quote, Indian pussy with the wild, wild west, Clay also positions her in relation to the frontier and the land. The frontier would not make sense without the ravishment of her flesh. It would not, quote, have true meaning, which is to say that it would be rendered incoherent. The connection between the native woman's body, madness produced through lust, and the universal sexual desire mirrors early colonial writings about the dangers of Native American women for European explorers. The native woman's body in Clay's description is ontologically lascivious and whose rape gives meaning to the ever-expanding frontier. Not only this, however, but Clay likewise ontologizes the settler's desire for screwing the wild Indian squaw. This desire, however, is not solely masculine in the film, as the film authorizes the first person who buys Lee's body to be a white woman. Gender is not a confining question when one is a settler. All settlers have access to the native woman's body. Even in the last sex scene between Clay and Lee, Lee's body is made to be hyper-fertile and exceptionally open. Without warning, the viewer is shown Lee squeezing her breast so that milk will emerge. Without any context of pregnancy or having a child, Lee is lactating. She takes on a literal Mother Earth quality that is infinitely reproductive, and in fact eroticizes her reproductive facilities. What the film ultimately makes clear for the viewer is the ontological positionality of the Native woman. She is positioned as not only without agency, an object of genocide, slave, and an active force and written to desire the white hero, but she is also imminently rapeable. Her body not only provokes rape due to its maddening quality, but it gives coherency to the frontier and to the West. Her genocide is the field upon which the entire narrative will take place. The Native woman's body is also clearly universalized through terms like squaw, which position her as interchangeable with any other Native woman writ large, but also in the way the desire is spoken about for her. Quote, it is every man's fantasy. She is also usable by white women, as well as for erotic and financial pleasure, and unlike white women, she has no imaginative possibility of saying no. The only time she attempts to, when she shoots Clay, not only does it have no effect, he is immediately uninjured, but the money she is supposed to earn has no meaningful difference since Clay controls her. She, like all Native women, becomes reduced to genocided flesh, whose rape becomes the condition for narrative, which is to say history, to happen at all. Quote up.
So you illustrate, like right at the end there, that money had no legitimate difference in the power dynamics between the two characters. Do you think that this is representative of the fact that like gender and maybe race or racialization as a process in general hold more power in society as a whole comparative to socioeconomic status?
Yeah, or in another way, I think that race structures the ability for social mobility, right? So what the film signifies is that even if Lee has money or she's afforded money, it doesn't change her status as someone who is used, raped, bought, sold, displaced, right?
Are there other known films that display patterns that you found in this?
Yes, so there's actually, in the paper that I'm doing, there's actually a second one that's been a set of films called Indian Girls, spelled N-D-N, and then the word girls, and there's like a set 1 through 7 that are actually more recent. This is from 1988. Those films start, I think, in 2008, and they go to the present. And those films are interesting because, for example, in sex scenes, Native American flute music will play, or they'll have very specific discussions about like Native women are forced. Particular Native women are sometimes coerced by the camera to do things that they said they didn't want to do in the beginning of the sex scene, but then are taught to do then. So it's so the dynamics of power maintain the same throughout time.
So I guess it's kind of not clear, but like it shows kind of examining the images that you're looking at and kind of the treatment of independent larger society. Why are you examining pornographic pictures?
Sure. So the reason I examined pornography was really for 2 reasons. The first is that pornography is actually considered still a taboo or hidden media, even though feminist scholars have talked about kind of pornization of like contemporary culture. The pornography still has this allure to people who make it. They can say or do things in film that's less policed, right? So you can make statements that you wouldn't say in a normative film. And the second is that I think that pornography is more explicit about its racial and sexual dynamics of power. So I think in novels, there's a really famous novel about a Caribbean woman who's locked in an attic. I don't know if anyone remembers what that novel is. It's like a classic Victorian,
Jane Eyre?
Yeah, Jane Eyre, that's it. Right? And so I think there's a pornographic element in that novel, right? In the way that her body is interpolated, sexualized, rendered irrational, right? And yet the novel was hiding that to you, right? Pornography is explicit. It's like, we think this is what Native women are. And so I think the obscene gaze and the violence of pornography is actually prevalent in law, novels, normative films as well. I think pornography is just honest with you about it.
You mentioned that there was a scene where she was like complaining that she wasn't getting enough money for services. Do you think that maybe that's like a movement of her owning, like taking ownership of her own body, or is that completely erased considering the nature of the film?
So I think I actually think what it shows is the attempt for Native women to attempt to deploy So, like, one of the things that I want to make clear is that I don't think that Native women don't resist or don't act, but I think that their ability to change the power structure is often prevented due to the relations of power. I think there are instances in which Native women subvert and resist and live within those relations of power, but the relations of power seem to overdetermine the possibilities of